welcome to the Support the Spectrum channel. If you're new here, my name is Ryann Sutera. I'm a Neurodiversity Affirming speech language pathologist and owner of Support the Spectrum. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is wildly controversial. Honestly, I didn't know it was this controversial when I posted this video about it, but what I have found is that a lot of people don't know that PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System, is not a neurodiversity affirming communication system. It is not neurodiversity affirming approved. And anybody who uses it in its true form is not teaching language in a neurodiversity affirming way. Now, what I've learned from the comments of this video, a lot of these comments are saying that the PECS system worked for them, right? But what they're really saying is they didn't use it the way that PECS is intended to be used. They didn't use the system by the book. They used it as visual support that with a motor component. There's nothing wrong with using visual support and a motor component to do so. There's some limiting factors to the motor part, but we'll get into that too. But if you are using a modified version of PECS, then you are not using PECS. Let me tell you how PECS is supposed to be used by the book. I took super detailed notes so I didn't miss a thing. So if you see me look at my computer, it's so that I don't miss a thing. So how you are supposed to use PECS is as follows. Phase 1 is that you usually have 2 people with you. You're supposed to have 2 people with you. One is the communication partner, one is the teacher, right? The teacher, most likely speech therapist, is supposed to guide that learner to pick up one of the pictures, and they oftentimes are supposed to use hand-over-hand assistance. Now, we do not use hand-over-hand assistance anymore. I have an entire video on why we do not, but just to summarize it for you, there is plenty of data to support that it interrupts motor plans and causes learning to be more dependent on prompting. It also violates bodily autonomy and is super presumptuous. We're assuming that we know what that person wants to touch. And just go check out my video to learn more about it and what we do instead. So even the fact that in phase 1 you are supposed to do hand over hand, red flag already. Maybe you used picture exchange system without hand over hand. That means you're not using PECS. That's good. Please don't come for me. Another weird thing about phase 1 is that you're not even supposed to use verbal prompts. It's supposed to be all behavioral and nonverbal language behaviors, communication behaviors. So you're using hand over hand to prompt someone to pick up a picture, and then you're prompting them to give it to the communication partner to get something out of it. So let's say they want their preferred toy, they would have to pick up the picture and give it to the communication partner to get that preferred toy. No language being modeled verbally. The only type of language being modeled is this visual support. There's nothing wrong with the visual support, but this whole idea that you have to do an exchange to get a preferred item is problematic, you guys. We don't do that anymore. If that learner is reaching for something, even if they don't say anything, that is communication, and we accept that as neurodiversity affirming therapists, and then we model the language without expectations. I digress. Let's move on. Phase 2, distance and persistence. Crazy name. So in this phase, the learner is practicing traveling to the pictures to then give it to a communication partner to get what they want. Still working on requests, still no verbal support, no variety in communicative functions. This is weird. Phase 3, they target picture discrimination. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that as a goal. Working on receptive understanding and differentiating one picture from the other. That's fine. Phase 4 is when they start to go into using sentence strips. So they have to take the item that they want to request, put it in a sentence strip, usually I want. They give that to the communication partner, and then the communication partner reads that out loud. I want duck, and gives them the duck. They encourage that person to verbally speak that language, but it's not pressed, which is good. That's modeling language without expectations. Using a sentence strip depends on the learner, sure. Phase 5, they start to answer the question, what do you want? Still using the communication cues that they have been learning up until this point. And then finally, in phase 6, they can work on commenting. on commenting I see, I like. So it's not even till the very end when you're supposed to model any other type of communicative function. Up until this point, it is requesting. And you are not allowed. Now, if you're going by the formal protocols of PECS, you are not allowed to model any other communicative functions, and you're not allowed to jump from one phase until the other phase is considered graduated or complete. Now, I think that everyone who is using PECS today is not using it by the book. So if you have been using visual supports in an exchange system, that may be fine for the learner that you are working with. Maybe you are using those visual supports to work on commenting, directing the actions of others, playing with language. That's fine and encouraged even. If you're using it strictly as the system requires, that's not neurodiversity affirming. Now, a lot of people say the picture exchange communication system is backed by research and data, so that is why they use it. Sure, there is evidence to support the fact that using this compliance-based treatment gets people to understand pictures, words, requesting, even commenting. Fair. It's based on the principles of B.F. Skinner, a behavioral researcher, right? Obviously, we can train pretty much anyone, anything to comply. That is not communication. Compliance is not communication. I feel like I'm smiling and I'm laughing because there's just such a difference between structured forcing to get a preferred item, preferred activity versus guiding a brain towards communicating what is important to them in a multimodal way, accepting all forms of communication to reduce stress on the process and make sure that actually sticks in the brain. Anyways, all that to say, if you want to be a neurodiversity affirming therapist, we can teach you how to do that here on the Support the Spectrum channel. We are promoting autonomy and genuine communication growth through neurodiversity affirming strategies. So let's get into it. When we say that PECS is compliance-based, we're talking about how the learner has to perform an action in order to get a preferred item. If they do not comply, then technically by the protocol, you are not to give them their preferred item. No matter how frustrated they get, no matter how sad they get, dysregulated they get, you're just supposed to watch a learner crumble and be upset and not help them in any way because they have to comply in order to get what they need sometimes. Obviously, this is not neurodiversity affirming. We don't do this. We provide breaks when they need it. We give them preferred items when they need it. A lot of times, preferred items are sensory regulation items that are going to make them feel more safe in order to be with you in a space and learn in a space where they feel that their brain is open, they can trust who's around them. Obviously, it violates bodily autonomy. We're talking about hand-over-hand prompting. I mean, the first phase is literally called teaching the physically assisted exchange. So you are physically assisting them and taking their hand, violating their bodily autonomy, preventing them from learning motor plans that can actually help them in the future. Okay, which kind of brings us into the limiting nature of PECS. For PECS, you have to have so many individual cut out and laminated pictures in a big binder, so many different sentence strips. It's so inaccessible if you really think about it, because as the learner grows, that speech therapist has to be constantly updating the images and updating the binder, getting bigger binders, laminating more. Oh, forget it if they need a second one. You have to create an entire different binder. So here's the thing. If you're going through all that trouble, why not just get them an AAC system? An AAC system, that is a speech generating device, is going to easily grow with the learner, give them the visual support, teach them a variety of motor plans and how to get to preferred items, actions, etc., etc. Why not just get them AAC? Because there are no prerequisites to getting any learner an AAC system. I have an entire video about AAC, how to get it for free, Please check it out if you're interested. Also, here's a fun fact for you. There are so many clinicians and so many people that worked in developing PECS who no longer use PECS, right? That should be enough for any of you to be like, okay, let me rethink this. Some of the people who developed PECS and stood by it for so long no longer use it. Then, of course, we talked about how it limits communication to requesting until the very last phase when you could start working on commenting. How is this communication? Communication is so much more than requesting. Playing with language is oftentimes the number one reason that learners communicate. They play with sounds, they play with language, they tell their jokes, they reference their means, they script and quote. That should be one of the first things you do as a language learner to build rapport and learn about their interests. We also want to model things like self-advocacy, protesting, initiating, directing the actions of others, especially with self-advocacy and protesting. That is so important for any human being to know how to do. I don't understand why anyone would want to work with a system that focuses specifically on requesting until they're at phase 6. That is so wild. There might be dangerous situations where that learner would need to know to say to someone, no, I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, think about it. This whole idea that you don't even provide verbal models. What are we talking about? Why wouldn't we provide verbal models? We're speech therapists. I'm not saying modeling and forcing them to use the language, but modeling without expectations so that they could hear the language. They could see your mouth moving, trying to turn on those mirror neurons. But why the heck would you be silently teaching language? Sorry, I'm getting worked up. Get worked up. Sorry. Because also this whole idea of not providing verbal models or not playing with language is completely ignoring an entire set of the population who are Gestalt language processors, who need melodic, intonation-rich language and oftentimes will be using it for play-based or emotion-based language. And you're just not expressing feelings. You're not modeling verbal language. You're not using intonation-rich or fun language. You're just requesting. So limiting. And if you don't know about Gestalt language processing, if that's new to you, you should know that 85% of autistic individuals are Gestalt language processors. And I have an entire long-form video about Gestalt language processing particularly. Please check that out if you need to learn more. And here's something interesting I found, right? So you say, but the research says PECS works. Some studies show PECS can help establish basic requesting and does not suppress speech. However, effects are often short-term, narrow, and uneven across learners. I wonder why. Because you're putting most of these learners into a survival state where they're forced to do one thing to get their preferred results, and all they're doing is learning to comply. They are learning in their short-term memory that, okay, if I do this, I get that, so let me just do it. But long-term, they are not learning the true meaning behind their voice, behind their communication attempts. Oh, it makes me sad even thinking about it. We should be teaching learners from the jump that their voice and nonverbal communication behaviors matter. That research also shows us that PECS is not an easy thing to generalize. First of all, you're carrying around this huge binder from class to class, from home to school, from after school activity to whatever. How is that easily accessible and generalized? It is not. It is not generalized to other communicative functions, obviously, and it's not even the most affordable option. There are ways to get free speech generating devices or low-tech core boards, even spelling boards are equally as good and may be even preferred for some learners. Okay, to wrap it up, you guys, I believe that everybody who is taken aback by the information that PECS is not neurodiversity affirming is not genuinely using PECS the way that the people who developed it meant to be intended. If you're using PECS as visual support, if you're using it in an exchange system, but you're also using it for a variety of communicative functions, then you are using neurodiversity affirming tools. Visual support is very important. Interaction and a variety of communication is very important. Presuming competence is very important. Accepting multimodal forms of communication is very important. Whether someone points or grabs you, leads you to something, vocalizes, visually looks at something, those are all valid forms of communication. Scripting, valid forms of communication. So if you are doing all of that and still using the PECS symbols, girl, you're not using PECS, and I'm happy for you. Thank you for doing that. If you would like to learn more about neurodiversity affirming care and how to develop language in a neurodiversity affirming way, hit that subscribe button, check out our other videos, share this video with people who need this information, comment your experience with this, and I will see you guys in the next video.